If you were at the spring game or you were anxiously awaiting the ability to see it on Sunday and you're trying to figure out what this Michigan team could be, well, even though your eyes might have seen what you saw or you're hearing reports coming from it, nothing is going to excite you more than some of the things that Sherrone Moore said on In the Trenches. I want to highlight a few things that he said in the post-spring interview right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And one of the things that we talked about on Monday was about some of the exciting elements of this Michigan football team. And Sherrone Moore echoed one of the things that I had said. And we're going to talk about we're going to go through a couple paragraphs of what he had to say. And we're going to start here with the defensive front, because I think that's where it's very, 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 I just think that this is going to be really, really good. Like I think I had said this on Monday that I had heard from two different people that are close about it. One of them is as close to the situation as you can get. That this defensive front absolutely could be among the best in the country. But here's what Sherrone Moore said. He says it's super deep. You know, you start with a guy like Rayshon Benny, who's been here and played a lot of football, has been an impact player, and he's been sitting behind guys every year, but he's played every year, so he's got the experience in the big games. Got the experience in every game possible to know what it looks like and how it prepares, and he's been great. A guy like Ike Iwunnah. Again, we keep on talking about how Ike Iwunnah is one of the first people out of Wink Martindale's mouth. He's the second guy out of Sherrone Moore's mouth. Like, he's a guy that we need to pay attention to. Like, this is where you can glean things, is the consistency of message, especially with guys that, like, it's one thing when it's like they're all like, yeah, Bryce is amazing. Okay. But Ike Iwunnah is not that. So there's that. To watch him where he's been, he was a guy that's been on the scout team 2 years ago, and now he's a guy that's in the rotation. I can go down the list. Damon Payne transfer. Trey Williams has been an impact player for us. Trey Pierce is a young guy that's played a lot in the bowl game. And then Eno Etta. You got 6 guys right there that you feel like you can throw in the game and be ready to play. Earlier, he talked about just the, like, Derek Moore and some of those guys as well. But there's a line here. He talks up, it says, on the edge, you got 4 guys: CJ Guy, Derek Moore, Dom Nichols, Cam Brandt. You'll find who find me a better edge room in the country. I got to see it because those guys are all unbelievable. You've got 2 older guys in Derek and TJ, and then you've got the 2 younger guys who just follow suit. They've all got a little bit something different, but they all have the same mindset. So it's great to watch. I know those guys have been giving tackles fits, but it's made them a lot better. And then you add in the linebackers again. So they're something that I had heard again from some inside stuff. That just the love that they have for Jimmy Rolder, and it's all about him being healthy. He said, Jimmy to us is another starter. I feel like we got 3 true starters in that room with those guys. And then adding a guy like Cole Sullivan, who can really play multiple spots too. But all of those three guys are seniors, but they're all guys that make that. And there's so many packages where they're all 3 on the field at the same time. That's something I didn't share, but that's something I had heard that they were thinking about going to. So that's huge to hear Sherrone say it. Not saying that to sound like an insider. I'm just saying it because, again, I'll tell you when I don't know something. I'm saying it because that's a kind of scintillating, tantalizing scenario. And I'm just kind of looking for there's a line here that I'm looking for in particular. Just way too much info to kind of sift through. And I don't know, but it's talking about this edge group, not the edge group, but the front 7. It's basically adding to the idea of what he said earlier about find me a better edge group. It's kind of like find me a better, and this is something I got from one of my sources, is they were saying like the mentality inside Schembechler Hall is basically find me a better front 7 in the country. You won't. That's really tantalizing. That's like where it's like you think about it and you're like, okay, they absolutely have that capability. And it's kind of funny because it's almost like coming off of a year where you have all these star players and things don't kind of work out. It kind of in some ways reminds me, as I always love to bring up this analogy, kind of reminds me of the Detroit Pistons teams, right? Like not many stars. Like, you got a little star power, right? Like, you can't look at like Damon Payne and say that's not some star power. He might not have had the career at Alabama that he would have hoped for or anyone expected, but he's a former 5-star. Trey Williams is a 4-star, right? Like, Derek Moore was a 4-star. You know, a lot of these guys were relatively highly rated. Ernest Hausman was the best player in the transfer portal at the time he committed to Michigan. Jayshawn Barham was a highly thought of guy as well in that light. So there's a lot of guys there, but it's not like your typical, group. Rayshawn Benny was a 4-star as well. It's not your typical group of players that you look at and say, that's the obvious guy that's going to be a first-round talent, right? Like, these are probably more like second, third, maybe fourth or fifth round talents. But I think that as a collective, everybody on the same page, that's going to bode extremely well for Michigan in the next year. I just think that this is a front seven that is incredibly talented. And if the secondary can play the way it did from safety to the boundary, I thought the secondary looked really good in the spring game. I don't think there's any question about that. So it's just a matter of, depth kind of more so at cornerback. But ultimately, like, this feels like a defense that is going to be just absolutely phenomenal. Sherrone had some really good things to say about the secondary, but I kind of don't really want to delve into that because I really want the onus to be on this front seven, because I think that, you're going to win games in the trenches. You're going, and, the offensive line's a little bit of a question mark based off of kind of the spring game and some of the rumblings that are out there. I've heard some mixed signals coming from Schembechler Hall a little bit. But I think, though, like, you've got that other side down, right? Like, a good defense covers a lot of problems. And if the offense can have some balance and have that go back to that complementary football like we talked about on Monday, then it's just in a really good place. I do want to add on the secondary just one thing. He says Shamari Earls is a young guy we're really excited about. He's really taken off and put himself in position to be a player for us. That's exciting. He looked the part in the spring game. So for those of you who didn't see it, I'm excited for you to actually see it. Let's move into what he had to say about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the run game, because I think all of that is worth talking about. We are going to do that here in just one moment. But before we do, ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I just realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I still spend a lot on food delivery, but not as much, because now I know what it takes. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Jimmy Whitner, I just want to let you know there will be no Zuri cameo. She was outside. So I'm checking to make sure that the puppy is behaving out on the outside chain as she stares at all of the things. Outside is the most exciting thing for her, period. It's always having to tell her she's not going to go nowhere because she always thinks she's going to go somewhere. Thinks she likes car rides, but she doesn't. Anyhow. Some interesting things. I don't think that we got anything. Like, actually, I think the Bryce talk was a little subdued. I think that's fine, right? Like, it's. I think that there's some cool things though here about Chip Lindsey. I'm not really going to get into that because we've kind of covered a lot of it. But with Bryce, he talks about. I'm not going to read it, but it's just kind of to summarize that. There's still some of the things that he needs to learn, right? Like, he's got all the talent in the world, but he kind of notes exactly the type of thing that I was trying to get from Jim Harbaugh the week of the MSU game when I asked him about the things that you guys don't know about Cade McNamara. I understand after conversations with colleagues why Jim didn't like the line of questioning, thinking I was trying to get him in one way or another. But it was really just trying to, because obviously, like, I, in 2021, was Team Cade, not because I had anything against JJ. I had a much stronger relationship actually with JJ McCarthy. And, but at the same time, I understood what a lot of people didn't at that time for whatever reason, that the quarterback position is not simply about having the arm talent and being able to make the throws. Now that's part of it. It's a big part of it because Last year, you had guys that didn't have the arm talent and couldn't make the throws. But now you have one. But Sherrone mentions about Bryce that it takes more than just that, because you have to be able to read defenses, do the pre-snap stuff, the post-snap stuff, go through the reads, all that kind of stuff. I will read part of this, assuming this is not cooperating, so maybe I won't. I'm going to have to refresh it. You can pull it up. And for the person that said, oh, your computer's always crashing. No, my browser was always crashing because it had some kind of runaway bug in the code that I finally fixed. That's not the case anymore. The computer's fine. The computer's great. It's mostly user error. But here's what he says about Bryce. He says he's a young guy. He's talented. He's got ability, and obviously he's got the high ranking, but he's still got to work to be great, to be where he wants to be at. So all those little things that you got to do to be a great quarterback, it's a lot more than just throwing it down the field. Is processing pre-snap and post-snap, so he's got to continue to work on that. That's the caveat for him, right? Because you know that a guy like Mikey Keene has that ability. Now, I think Bryce is too talented to keep out off the field, though. I think if Mikey Keene had a full spring, that he would do that. But then also, you've got like what I've mentioned that Connor said on one of those interviews about Bryce's ability to process pre-snap and post-snap. I mean, it's beyond his years, even though it didn't look necessarily phenomenal. I thought his processing was fine. I thought there was just a lot kind of riding on that spring game. And I thought a lot of his accuracy and all that stuff was, on point, and guys just didn't come down with balls that you hope that they do eventually. So I think that though that's lending credence to something we've talked about a lot on this show. And I think that's interesting. I want to talk about the receivers now. We're just kind of touching them all here, and then we'll give some final thoughts in segment 3. He said, I'm excited to see where it goes this summer and fall camp. Feels like we're trending in a really good direction. Donaven McCulley is a guy that's coming on and really has earned the respect of the team really fast. Didn't take many practices, but that's a guy that's 6'5", 200 and something pounds. Can go up and get that jump ball. Something we really haven't had since Nico Collins. So he gives you that ability. Fredrick Moore's really stood out. Samaj Morgan's played really well. A guy like Andrew Marsh, a new freshman that's been really good for us. So for the person who was asking about have we, I want to hear more about Andrew Marsh. There you go. Shannon Goodwin's probably taken the biggest leap of anybody in the room. Is put in his position to be, hey, I could be a starter. I'm going to play a lot of football here. And then we've got a guy with some size with Jamar Browder, who probably set himself back a little bit with that spring game, mistiming those 2 jumps. But still excited about that. But he says, we got a lot of good players in the room. Amarian Stewart's another guy who's really sparked. So the room's talented and excited to put the pieces together. That's just a far cry from where we were before, right? Like when we were talking about what are the stronger positions and the weaker positions. Off the top of my head, if I was to start ranking him now, I would go like this probably. I would actually kind of go front to back on defense, change things up. Safety is still, I think, a big strength, but I think linebacker has become a surprising group for them. So I would say defensive tackle, edge, linebacker. Actually, I'd probably go defensive tackle, linebacker, edge, safety, cornerback are among the strengths. And then actually probably corner would probably be behind running back for me. So then it would go running back, cornerback, quarterback, which is at least deeper now. And then probably, tight end and then wide receiver. I mean, that probably doesn't change things that much, because then it's still offensive line is kind of the bottom of the rung at the moment, which is, it's a little scary at the moment, because we don't know exactly what it's going to be. But at the same time, some of the conversations I've had with people, it's like, did it look good in the spring game? No. Does that concern me? Yes. But like some of the conversations right before the spring game from, just inside Schembechler Hall were kind of the idea of, we can do it with these guys. Now you've got to fill some things out. Gio El-Hadi, Greg Crippen, and Andrew Sprague are set. So then what do you do with Evan Link? And, do you put him inside at right guard? If you do, then who's your tackle? And that's where some of the interesting stuff comes here is you've got Sherrone Moore mentioning that Andrew Babalola could absolutely be a starter this year. Now, you don't want that. I can tell you that. And I'm probably Sherrone doesn't want it either, but he says probably one of the smartest human beings besides Grant Newsome that I've ever met in my life. We call him Newsome Jr. because I mean, he was a direct admit to the Ross Business School, that takes some intelligent. But the kid is very cognizant of what he's doing, doesn't make the same mistake twice. And from a physical standpoint, he's still growing. Says he's already like 305, 310 now. Got a basketball background. He's got great feet, great balance, great flexibility, and is surprisingly strong. He's going to be competing for that left tackle spot in the fall. So I think that there's still some question, obviously. I'm going to steal from Steve Dace, one of the things that he said. So I'm going to give full credit to him. But like he said to me, and when we talked about this over the weekend, you're not trying to necessarily just go out and get the offensive tackle from Southwest Missouri State to come in hopes that that guy that's played at a lower level can become as good at, able to do what Evan Link was able to do in his best games, right? Like that's just kind of not what you're looking for. And a lot of people are going to read this, or not read this, but listen to this and think that I'm saying don't go after anyone. But here's the thing is if you're going to go after someone, it has to be worth the money it costs now, right? And they spent a lot of money on, Bryce Underwood, Justice Haynes, some of the guys they did bring in. So you've got to be able to have the money available to do it, and they better be an upgrade on what you have. And those two things are not sure things. So understand me when I say that it's got to be the risk has to be worth the reward, and it might not be based off of who's in the portal at the moment. Okay. So I think they'll probably figure things out. Oklahoma's gotten a little bit tougher with Stone coming back, but at the same time, I think they've got a lot of guys that could vie for that, and they've got some weeks, weeks on, weeks off that I think can make it worth their while. Like, if they can stand up and play well in New Mexico, then that might give them the confidence. If it's Evan Link at left tackle, he already knows, like, hey, I can do this. I played right tackle against Ohio State. I played left tackle against Alabama. What's the difference playing against Oklahoma? You know what I mean? Going to be different because Brent Venables is going to throw everything at that offensive line that he can. But I'm not really sky is falling on that, as some others might be. I think that they have some time to figure it out before they face the toughest challenge of the season, which is Ohio State, obviously. And I think they've got tough challenges before that, but they're not nearly Texas or Oregon and Indiana last year. Like it's a much easier, more amenable schedule on paper at this moment. So I want to talk really quick before we'll go to break, but I do want to talk about what he had to say about Justice Haynes, and then we'll kind of talk about what it all means. What do I think this team might be based off of where it is right now? We'll do that here in just a moment. All right, I thought there were some really interesting things about Justice Haynes. Sherrone Moore says that his running style is a little bit like Blake. I know you're thinking Blake Corum. He's actually talking about Blake Bortles. No, I'm kidding. It's not true. That I think he's a little wider, a little bigger than Blake is, but he's got a lot of shoes to fill, big shoes to fill. If he's going to play like Blake, because Blake was a legend here, but it says the running style is similar too, but a tough kid, man. Runs physical, runs hard. Has the breakaway speed to take it to the house. So I think that's really it's fun. And then he says Jordan Marshall will try to run you over. I couldn't be more excited about the tandem that they have at running back right now. It's just funny because this is such an offensive overhaul. Defensively, yeah, you lose some of the star power, but like offensively, whether it's players that are younger that are going to be seeing the field more, or players that we just haven't seen. I think it's just very, very exciting what they have. So very cool stuff. I think that's exciting. I don't know why I had to do that here on the other end, but that's what we decided to do. I think that I saw enough in the spring game that shows me that the defense is incredible and the offense has some capability. Did we see the full capability? Absolutely not. Were we going to without Chip Lindsey actually calling the plays? No, we weren't. If it was ones versus twos or ones and threes versus twos and fours, I think it's a different scenario. That's not what it was, right? Like Chip Lindsey calling the plays against Wink Martindale, that gives you a little bit more of an idea of what this offense is going to look like. I think we just saw snippets. I want to remind you, Michigan does not run spring games to show everybody how good the team is. They run spring games to understand where their players are in terms of can they handle the pressure of playing in the big house? If we can throw some situational stuff at them, can they handle it? All of that type of stuff. It's a wheat versus tares scenario, right? Like trying to separate the wheat from the tares. That's what they're trying to do. It's not a situation like Chip Lindsey when he was at Auburn and Jarrett Stidham threw for 8,000 yards and everyone comes away and is like, oh wow, look at how good this team is. That's not what they're trying to do. I know some people think spring showcases are just for the fans. It is for the fans in the sense that they let the fans come in, right? They still had a spring game when other teams made it like where they aren't canceling. But that's not the point for Michigan. They utilize that time in a purposeful manner so that you don't have to worry about, or not, you don't have to worry, but so that they can figure out what they have before some of these guys are thrust into the spotlight in front of 110,000 fans or have to go on the road to Oklahoma. They want to see, can these guys handle the pressure? And some lived up to it, right? Like it's for all the talk of Jamar Browder being incredible and snagging everything. And you saw that clip, I'm sure, of him doing a tip drill catch to a touchdown. We didn't see that in the spring game. 2 targets, he missed both of them, and both were catchable. So that kind of shows you like, okay, maybe he's going to need more time on task. There's certain things I want to see more of based off of some conversations I've had. I want to see more from the wide receivers. I feel more confident in them, but that's not a high bar to really cross. I want to see them being able to make more contested catches. I want to see them with a bit more energy. I want to see that, there's a lot that I still want to see that we haven't seen, but I think it's hard because you look at who Bryce was throwing to compared to who Jaden was throwing to. I think if you reversed those wide receiving groups, you probably see Bryce do a lot more. I think even with the less likely starting line that Bryce had, or Jaden had, I think Bryce would have thrived more so just by having bigger, more reliable targets on the other side. So, and again, we saw 1 target to Donaven McCulley in the entire game. So I think there's lots to like. Now, I want to, anyone who's melting down over it, which I've seen a few over the spring game, not looking super sharp, think about 2023. That didn't look sharp at all. I came away being surprised. It was like, I thought this was supposed to be a national championship team. Didn't look like it, right? The players that had big games were like Ben Hall. The year before it was like Peyton O'Leary, right? It's almost never the guys that you want that are going to have those big games, whether it's a lack of playing or that's just kind of, again, it's not the point of how Michigan runs a spring game. So, all right, tomorrow's Thursday. It's the NFL draft. We were going to do 2 shows tomorrow, which was kind of why we didn't have a Tuesday show. We're going to do a mailbag as usual, but then we'll do a late show after the first round when we talk about the guys that were drafted and where they went and all of that. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again on Thursday. Peace.